The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Today we'll be talking to Melanie Williams of the Montana chapter of Alzheimer Association. We are in Billings, Montana at the 55th conference, the Governor's Conference on Aging. Stay tuned and we'll be right back.
I think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
This is Bill. He just received his new Medicare card and is following some simple rules to protect himself from fraud. He knows to never give out his Medicare, Social Security, or bank number over the phone. And this is Nancy. She knows that to detect any problems, she always reads her Medicare summary notice or Medicare Advantage EOB to make sure the billing is correct. Both Bill and Nancy know that anything suspicious can be reported to Montana SMP at 1-800-551-3191.
Receiving help for Ella has been life-changing, and the best word for it is relief. I was the therapist, I was the aide, and I couldn't be the mom because emotionally you're just to your wits' end, you're trying to survive.
I provide care for the Harrises, specifically their daughter Ella. Respite care is extremely challenging, but the rewards that you receive from it are 100 times more than working with a child that doesn't have special needs. Once they get something, it's everything. It's a you celebrate. You don't just enjoy those moments. You celebrate every moment that you get, that you guided them to that next step.
Respite. It's okay to need it. It's okay to want it. Will you provide it? Call 800-224-6034 or visit respite.mt.gov.
It went from survival to enjoying life and being able to be a mom again.
Brought to you by the Montana Broadcasters and this station.
We're back and welcome to Aging Horizon. I'm your host, Wilma Collins. We have Melanie Williams of the Montana chapter of the Alzheimer Association. Melanie, welcome to Aging Horizon.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So tell us about your association. What do you do?
So our association is really here for caregivers. We're here to make sure that we support caregivers throughout the journey, from the beginning to the end. We're also here for those living with dementia. We provide education and resources. And a lot of the work that we do comes from research that's happening on a global level. We have research happening all over the world. I was just at an AAIC conference this summer in Philadelphia where over 8,000 people were presenting their findings. So it's an area of interest right now. We are looking at social determinants of health. We are looking at lifestyle as well as treatments and what could be causing Alzheimer's and related dementias. So we're very active in the research to hopefully help make the quality of life better. We also do a lot with policy. So whether it's state or national policy, we're behind advocacy efforts on that. We just got news that the NAPA Act and the Alzheimer's Reenactment Act were both just passed in Congress at the national level. So we're very integral in those activities as well.
Great. So what kind of support would you provide to our community?
Great question. Education is probably the number one thing when we're dealing with something like an Alzheimer's dementia or dementia. Not understanding what's happening can make it even more challenging, harder to navigate. And so bringing education to the community so they understand the disease and the disease progress. I know when my mom was diagnosed, it made it much easier for me to understand why she was saying and doing the things she was doing when I had the education and knew what was happening inside the brain. But beyond that, we also want to provide caregivers with tools and resources. We have a series right now, or a training called the Empowered Caregiver. So really, how can we give them tools that will help them stay maybe just ahead of the disease a little bit, know what's coming up, know how to be prepared, how to communicate effectively in a way that will keep quality of life and stress and anxiety down, how to manage behaviors by watching for triggers or just changing the environment in the home, maybe even changing the schedule in the day. So we want that available. We also have a helpline that's available 24/7, which is a huge asset for Montanans, especially in our real rural areas. It's master level clinicians that can answer their questions any time of day or night, because we know this disease doesn't go to bed at 9 and wake up at 8 in the morning. It's a 24/7, and so that's a resource that many of our rural communities appreciate and rely on when they don't have something that's available and nearby.
So are you saying your clinicians will visit the rural areas and visit with the clients and providers?
They will on the phone. So it's a helpline number. It is free, but they will help them on the phone, and you can call as many times as you need to.
Good, good. It's nice to hear that, because having the resources available for our community and clients will make such a huge difference, because the disease is a dilapidating disease, and so we really appreciate you guys doing what you're doing.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
What are some of the hands-on stuff you have for the community?
We, along with the education, which we have volunteers in communities that are trained to deliver this evidence-based education, we have some tools such as the ALS Navigator. It's a simple tool to use in that you just answer 4 or 5 questions, and then it will create an action plan. So maybe you're struggling with bathing, your loved one is fighting against bathing. You can go use this tool to decide what the triggers might be, how you might make that experience more enjoyable so it doesn't turn into a fight. Safety in the home is a big issue, especially in Montana. Guns in the home, and then driving is a big issue in Montana. So this tool can help give you some ideas, some resources that you can turn to so that you know how to navigate that so it doesn't become something that's a bigger issue.
So for families who can't afford to have the loved ones in a nursing home or, in a memory care ward, what are some of the supports you would, some other supports they can call you up and ask you about it? What do they do?
Our helpline actually can connect them to local resources. One of the ones they might use is the Agency on Aging to connect them with resources within the community. We do know that getting resources in the home earlier can help with quality of life and help them stay home longer, because the other part of this disease is the caregiver's health. We know that caregiver depression will rise during the journey of the disease. We also know that their own chronic health might decline because they're not taking care of themselves as they take care of their loved ones. So we want to provide and connect them to resources in their community to keep them in their home, but also keep that quality of life. It's not one of those where we just want them to stay there and hope that they can grin and bear it and make it, but with support and with some care and some resources that will help.
Good. Do you have some numbers for us later on that we can provide to the community on how they will contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. The helpline number is probably the best. It's 800-272-3900. Our website, alz.org, is massive. It has amazing resources. One thing nice about calling the helpline is they'll be able to point somebody in the direction of what they're needing, because there's so much out there. This journey sometimes can be 20 years. So there's resources and information for the entire process of the disease. So we want to point people to what they're needing, because it can be very, very overwhelming, and we don't want to overwhelm with resources.
No doubt, because it can get cumbersome for the caregivers.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned, and we will be right back with more valuable information from the Montana chapter of the Alzheimer Association.
With as many as 1 in 10 Americans at risk for Alzheimer's or some other form of dementia, chances are someone you know and love will receive that diagnosis. When that happens, you may well feel devastated, but know that you are not alone. Help is available. You don't have to face dementia by yourself. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
been 27 years. I never thought I'd still be smoking, but here I am, COPD and all. I'm about to have a granddaughter. There's so much to show her, but I'm scared I won't be able to keep up like I used to. I kind of gave up on myself on quitting. But it's different now. I want to be here for her and for my daughter.
Every generation produces heroes, men and women who step forward to defend our country in time of need, no matter the personal cost to themselves. And though we can never fully repay them, we can make sure they have access to low-cost, long-term care when they need it. That's what Montana's Veterans Homes are all about. If you've got a hero in need in your family, call us. We can help.
Sergeant Jones. Please respond. I was separated from my squad. Requesting backup. Anyone? Please respond. I'm all alone here.
Welcome back to Aging Horizon, brought to you by the Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services. And we're here today with Melanie Williams of the Montana chapter of the Alzheimer Association. Welcome. So, Melanie, we hear that you're into research. What are some of the research the Alzheimer Association is into?
There's a lot of research happening right now. The most exciting, I think, is in diagnostic, but also lifestyle. Diagnostic is a huge one for Montana. Right now, to get the actual diagnosis for Alzheimer's, just the Alzheimer's alone, we need to travel to Spokane because the compound that's necessary to pick up the hallmarks of Alzheimer's has a very short shelf life, so it won't even make it to Montana in time for the scan. So logistically that causes some problems for us. But there are blood tests right now being looked at. One in particular is showing 90% accuracy. More research will be needed to see if that carries over into other populations, with males, females, other ethnicities, all of that. But there is a lot of promise in that. They're finding that diagnosis might be even better than a doctor's diagnosis. We're also looking at spinal fluid to use, and that's a little bit more invasive. People are a little bit more leery of that one, but at least we'll have some options. Lifestyle is really coming to the forefront right now as we learn more and more about what we eat, what we do, our activity level, our social level, staying social and active, challenging our brain, wearing our helmets, keeping our blood pressure managed and keeping our diabetes managed are all showing huge impact on our brain health. In fact, we are finding that you can decrease your chance of developing dementia or delay the onset by 40% by following a healthy lifestyle. So that's very significant. That's some of the research that's happening right now.
So what are some of the food you would recommend that we eat?
Real food. We're learning more and more in all areas of chronic disease that highly processed food is bad for our hearts, it's bad for our brains, it doesn't help our organ systems in general. So the highly processed foods, especially what we find in boxes in the middle of the store, gas station food maybe is more of a convenience type food, although I see an effort in gas stations to definitely bring that fresher food. But food that you can find around the outside of the store that's fresh, and it's real food. It hasn't been processed.
And I'm also hearing you say that we have to keep moving.
Yes.
We have to exercise.
Yes. They're recommending 150 minutes a week, which shouldn't be new. We've been hearing that for quite some time for heart health. And so whatever you will keep doing, whatever you find joy in, it doesn't mean you need to go out and sign up to run a marathon. If you enjoy walking, walk with a friend, and then you're exercising and socializing at the same time. Find a group activity that you like to do, a group physical activity that you like to do. Just find something you enjoy that you can do and maintain over the course of the rest of your lifetime. And you might switch it up too, which is totally fine.
You know, if I were a caregiver, what are some of the things I need to look up for? Some of the signs, some of the symptoms that I would look up for before we say, you need to get tested?
Yeah.
What are some of those early signs?
Good question. When they start misplacing items that maybe they've never misplaced before, like for example, car keys. We all misplace car keys, but we find them. We retrace our steps. We were like, oh yeah, here they are. The person with dementia might lay their car keys down and forget where they set them, and then later not be able to find them and not remember setting them down. We usually go, oh yeah, I remember setting them down there now. Somebody with dementia might not remember setting them down. Not being able to follow a familiar recipe or even drive to a familiar place. They might get lost driving to a familiar place, or they might get mixed up following a recipe and not go in order or add wrong ingredients, not being able to play a game correctly. So things that they've normally been able to do and do well at, they might start slipping. Tracking finances, if they've always been very good about that, keeping a neat house, anything like that that's kind of a change.
We try to get you, call that number that you provided, say, hey, we are having problems here. Can you tell us which way to go?
Yeah, and talking to your doctor too. So many people would want to know if they were having signs of dementia, but they're afraid to talk to their doctors. So trying to break that barrier and break the stigma and say, talk to your doctor, say, I'm really concerned about this. This is something I'm noticing. Maybe bring a memory journal or have family come with you and talk about some of the things that they're seeing. And don't be afraid to talk about it. We're really trying to break the stigma in Montana.
Yeah, because it's very difficult, with the stigma of dementia and Alzheimer. We tend to not want to get the community involved in our business.
Yeah.
But I think, as you say, we should be able to contact our doctors. We should be able to contact the Montana chapter of this Alzheimer Association.
Yes, absolutely.
Good. What else can we do?
Managing the blood pressure and managing diabetes is showing to have a huge impact on it, as well as maintaining a healthy weight, which should fall into place if you're doing the socializing, the walking, or whatever activity you choose to do, and the eating right. Protecting those heads, like I said, making sure you wear helmets, and then challenging your brain. I hear a lot of people say, oh, I do word puzzles every day. But if it's easy for you or you enjoy it, it might not be a challenge for your brain. You need to find something that, I used to tell my students when I was a teacher, something that actually hurts your brain, something that makes you really have to think. Yeah. It's maybe not relaxing, it's maybe not calming, it's something that really stretches your brain. So the next time you're frustrated, tell yourself, this is good for my brain.
So there's no way we can say, oh, I don't have the time of the day to work out. We can work out just by walking in our house.
Yeah.
We can work out by walking to the front door, walking back. So we just need to continuously keep moving.
Yes.
So
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Park far away from the store and walk in, whatever it might take.
Okay. So, well, we'll be right back. Stay tuned and wait for us.
You've probably seen some big-name celebrities on your TV lately talking about all the Medicare benefits you're missing out on. But the insurance companies who are paying for these ads may be pushing benefits not available in Montana. Fortunately, help is available from a friendly state health insurance assistance program counselor who can help you sort it all out. It's free, and we screen everyone for eligibility regardless of your zip code. It's Montanans helping Montanans. Call today.
Today, class, we'll be discussing the term ombudsman, a word we borrowed from the Swedes and never gave back. Say you're a resident or you have a loved one in long-term care. Now, what do you do if you're not happy with the care and services you receive? You call your long-term care ombudsman, of course. Your ombudsman is available to support you and your rights. An advocate on your behalf could be the ticket. This is your home. If you have questions, the numbers right there below me have all the answers. Class dismissed.
I was diagnosed with diabetes in 1992, and I went into denial. It made me angry. I was a professional chef, and I didn't want to change my eating style. It took me a long time to get serious about managing my health. My perspective changed from resentment to one of loving my body, the container for my spirit. Getting help from my diabetes educator supported my goals of improved self-care. I want to feel good and have a great life. My diabetes educator helps me do this.
A decade of Montana fourth graders on Energy Share. Robbie Holman reminds us that even during the chilliest Montana winters, our homes don't have to be cold, not if we energy share the love. And Emma Bergman knows who to call when the cost of heating your home starts to put a chill on your family. Emma says, when winter is in the air, it's time to care with Energy Share. Energy Share is not a government program. It's neighbors helping neighbors who face energy emergencies the Montana way. Call or visit our website today. Thanks, Energy Share, for helping people in need.
Welcome back. This is Aging Horizon, brought to you by your host, Wilmot Collins. And we have with us today Melanie Williams of the Montana chapter of the Alzheimer Association. Melanie, we're back. We have some more valuable information for our public. What's living well?
Living well with dementia is a new phrase that we're embracing to really, like I said, embrace that idea that it's not the doom and gloom that we sometimes associate with dementia. There are things that we can do to live well with it. And it starts with managing stress for both the person living with the disease and the caregiver. You can imagine for the person living with the disease, all of a sudden this is a world they don't understand anymore. And things are happening around them that they can't explain. And they're losing things that they don't remember losing. They can't find their way to a place that's familiar to them. So their anxiety is escalating through the course of this disease and will continue to. So as care providers, what's the responsibility, or what can they do to keep that stress level down? Right. And we always want to come from a place of compassion and love, and letting them know that we're there for them, that they're safe, that we'll take care of them. When we start to argue or criticize, that can become very difficult, and then their anxiety will probably raise, and then everybody's stressed. Right. And then the caregiver too, making sure they're taking time, even if it's 3 minutes a day or 5 minutes a day, to do some meditation or some deep breathing, or just calming themselves, keeping them calm, because it can get very wearing listening to the same question over and over and over all day. And so just taking that deep breath and remembering to them, it's the first time they've ever asked that question. So we answer it as if we're answering it for the first time.
So what happens if we're the only two people at home and the care provider is getting stressed? Mm-hmm. Can they call you? Can they call you for some relief?
Yes. They can call us and we can direct them to resources that are available in the community. And the other thing too is we encourage caregivers at the beginning to really build that circle out. So who are some other friends and family that might come in and help? Or sometimes we forget, as friends and family, we could maybe go to the grocery store for them. Or when we're at the grocery store, we could call and say, can I pick something up for you? So it can work too as a community, as a circle in the community. And that might change throughout the course of the disease. There are some people that might become uncomfortable as the disease progresses. And so it's okay to change the circle of friends that are supporting you.
So where can we get some other information? Do you have an online? Can we get some information?
We do have a page on our website now called Living Well, and it mentions things too about getting your finances in order and getting your legal things in order, such as a power of attorney, both for medical and financial. That can also ease some stress. If you're really worried about the person with dementia mishandling money, or maybe getting caught up in one of these scams that are so common right now, getting some things in place that's not a stressor anymore. And then I mentioned earlier the ALS Navigator. That can give you some tips and tools for how to communicate with the person. If they're always wanting to leave when it's 20 below out in Montana and go for a walk and they're not dressed appropriately, what are some things we can do to try to divert them and move on to another activity that they enjoy without feeling like we're criticizing them or treating them like a child, because that will escalate behaviors also. And then we really want to try to minimize them going to the emergency room unless there are no other options, because we do know taking somebody to the emergency room that has dementia might escalate the situation. They might become more agitated. And so can we call a nurse practitioner, or can we call a portal for a doctor, or go online and find out some other things that we could try? Maybe a medication was changed and you're thinking this could be causing it. We really need to talk to the doctor about it, and try to alleviate those repeat visits because that will escalate behaviors. So really using that community and relying on that community that you've built around you.
So do you have a list of providers, a list of doctors for the client to be able, or the care provider to be able to call? Because sometimes we may not have our own providers, our own doctors that we can call. So do you have a list on your website that they can access?
We don't necessarily, but we do have a lot of rural clinics in Montana. So you might just go in or call a clinic and say, we need to get in and see somebody, and go into the rural clinics. We do encourage that, and if it's been a family doctor that's known you for a long time, sticking with that doctor. Some people get really hung up on the fact they have to go to a neurologist.
Right.
But there are family docs or primary care physicians that can start the process with you and direct you in the direction, and that's usually somebody you trust. It's hard to talk to a stranger about these things.
So what happened when you talk about legacy, and the person is trying to write up a will and all, and you find out that it's almost near impossible to happen? What do you do as the caregiver? How do you?
You can turn it into a fun storytelling time. I remember during COVID when my mom was in assisted living and I couldn't visit her, to pass the time I'd say, hey Mom, why don't you tell me some childhood stories? I'd really like to write them down. She always wanted to write a book. So I said, maybe we can include them in your book someday. So really make it about them, empower them, make them feel dignified, make them feel like this is your chance to share your story with future family, maybe have it published if that's a dream of theirs. It may or may not happen, but build them up in that moment.
That is so neat, because most of us don't think about it that way, because we see them as deteriorating and then we want to shower them with, but if you can divert that thought process, it makes a lot of a difference. So thank you so much.
And you'll see them light up when they start talking about things from their past.
Yeah. And then to remember that, and it becomes a healthy conversation.
Yes.
It becomes a healthy interaction with both of them.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So that is really neat. Yes. Thank you so much, Melanie. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, see us next week, and we will be right back. Visit us for some more exciting news from Aging Horizons. This is Wilmot Collins, your host of the Department of Public Health and Human Services. Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.